They mounted and rode forth, with well-horsed followers, and soon beheld the great array coming on, with shields shining clear, and bassinets burnished full brightly, flashing back the strong beams of the sun. They saw so many braided banners, standards, and spear pennons, and so many mounted knights all flaming in gay attire, and so many broad battles taking such vast space as they rode, as might, by the number and battle array, have dismayed the greatest and boldest and best host in all Christendom. That was an excerpt from the description of the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314 of the Scottish host led by Robert the Bruce. And if you notice for a moment, it says, and I'm going to read a line again, they saw so many braided banners, standards, and spear pennons. This is talking about heraldic flags. Now, we think today of heraldic flags as simply the royal banner that is often seen above Buckingham Palace or wherever the Queen is staying. You often will see individual armigers at Highland Games and Renaissance festivals and other gatherings displaying their personal banner of arms, like the one I have here in the corner of mine. Now, heraldic flags may predate heraldry. There's a little bit of back and forth, which came first, the chicken or the egg. And nowadays, over the years, especially since the later Middle Ages, we have ascribed meaning to the heraldic flags, as well as their sizes, dimensions, names, where they draw their inspiration from, that sort of thing. And today I want to talk a little bit about that. So I'll start off with the personal banner. It's probably the most well-known form of heraldic flag, if not the second most compared to the standard. And the personal banner is just that. It is a banner of the arms. It is in square or in rectangular fashion, depending on where you're at in the world. Like in Scotland, I'm in America, but I follow the Scottish customs of arms since that's where my family is from. When I say family, I mean my grandparents and the like. But the banners there are very well regulated, so I think it's a really great way to examine the Scottish system because it's mimicked by several other areas, especially in the UK. So each banner is set down in proportions. This one is 28 by 36 inches, which is the standard set, or 28 by 34 inches, sorry, which is set down by the Court of Lion as any other armiger is allowed to display that size. And there's sizes that go up. I believe feudal barons have a 36-inch square flag, regular barons have 38 inches, and it goes on and up until you get to 60 inches square, which is the sovereign's personal banner. Now, on a note about royal flags, I think a lot of people have probably seen this flag that I'm about to pull out. Now many will call this the Lion Rampant, or they'll call it Royal Standard and such, and it's not. It's a royal banner. It's shown in the proportion of rectangular flags, as often was the case up and through the late 18th century. You start seeing a move to rectangular flags there from the square heraldic ones. But there's that one, and of course there's the famous one that everybody has seen if they've ever been to London when the Queen is present at Buckingham Palace. But the Royal Banner, which is just the arms of the Queen, just as that one is the Scottish Royal Arms. Now, pardon me while I fold this. Now, there is some regulation with that. With all personal banners, they are, just like the arms, the armiger's heritable property. It's their own, it's theirs to display. So if you want to display a banner of your arms, go ahead. But if you have the royal standard as I do, I never fly that. Why? Well, the Queen's not in my house. That's the simplest answer, If that armiger's not present, you don't fly their flag. If I was to invite a friend over that was armigerous and we were having a big gathering or something, I'd say, hey, put your flag up on the flagpole. We'll fly ours up together or something like that. If I ever had a chief visit the local games, I would insist that we fly his banner as well to denote that he was there, or his standard, either one. But there are several other flags that are a little less common nowadays, because these are the more medieval-inspired ones. Those are going to be the pennon, the guidon, also pronounced guidon, and the standard. We'll talk about the pencil as well, but that's kind of a special thing for Scottish stuff. But to start off, the pennon. The pennon derived from the lance pennon, or vice versa, we don't really know. With all of these flags, they are smaller versions of the standard, but I'm going to work from the bottom up because it makes a little more sense when it's explained that way. So, a pennon is 4 feet long. It's triangular. It's usually about 1.5 to 2 foot high, tapers down to about 4 feet long, and it's triangular. Now, that's the other caveat. We don't know if all standards were rounded or, and when I say standards, I mean standards, guidons, and pennons, if they had rounded ends or pointed ends. Pointed ends are sharper and they're a lot easier to make if you're trying to hastily make your flag ready for war and such. But they don't last as long. They get whipped around in the wind a lot easier. They can rip. It's a mess. But for example, here's mine. Now, normally, they will bear one of the national flags or the arms. So, depending on where you're at, in Scotland right now, they will either have them designed with the bearer's arms in hoist. When I refer to in hoist, hoist is the side where it attaches to the pole. So, in hoist, it will usually have the saltire or the Union flag sometimes, Union Jack for those in America, or it'll have the bearer's arms. Now, if you're going to design one that's just random, I would say just use your arms. That's probably the most common, but you can do it any way you want. Then, and I've even heard of an American armiger using the standards, guidons, and pennons, also doing flags with the U.S. arms, so the 13 stripes with the blue chief. That looks really cool. I have yet to see that in person, but I saw a picture of it. It looks awesome. So if you're an American armiger and you make a flag like that, please let me know. And then the rest of it is divided in the livery colors. Mine are or and azure, so blue and gold, and then they have the motto written down it. That's the most common way you see a pennon. That's how pennons usually are. They're very simple. They are meant to be carried on a lance. They are nothing fancy. They are something short and sweet. There's some writings, especially here in Gare, where he talks about different pennons being assigned to different military units. So the standard would be there with the leader of the army, or with that regiment. Your companies would have guidons and platoons would have pennons or something, breaking that down. And of course, that's modern military terminology, or the older ones, but, that sort of thing. Or it could have been regiment, battalion, company, or something like that. It's a 3-tiered system, and there might have been some other stuff there, or some livery flags and streamers and the like displayed. But yeah, so there's that. The next size up is the guidon, which I do not have one made yet. I'm planning to make a guidon and a standard so I can display all 3 for teaching use. I will only ever fly my pennon, really, but the other 2 will be for display use. So the next size up is the guidon. Now, most guidons are in the range of 8 feet, give or take a little more. They are supposed to be a third the size of a standard, which kind of makes sense, kind of don't, because guidons are always given in feet, standards are always measured in yards, so a 4-yard standard somehow translates to an 8-foot guidon, which is almost like 2.5 yards. So there's some mathematical error in that, I think, and I don't know why it's written that way if you look on the Court of Lord Lyon website or the Society of Scottish Armigers or the College of Arms, but they all list it that way, which I think is a little odd, but that's the rules that everybody follows. So you have your pennon, which is your small flag. You have your guidon, which is your medium flag, which is 8 feet long. Those are always arms and hoist, saltire and hoist, or St. George's Cross if you're in England, or the Union flag nowadays. You don't see the Union flag or the saltire or the St. George's Cross really ever anymore. The only examples I can think of is, I believe the Duke of Wellington was granted a standard with the Union flag and hoist at one point. There was another general sometime in the 1800s in the British Army who was granted a standard with, and this was by the College of Arms, was granted a standard with a Union flag and hoist. They look sharp. There's nothing wrong with them. You just don't really see them that often. Usually it's just the arms now. And the College of Arms will grant a standard to anyone, whereas in Scotland, standards are pretty much regulated to chiefs. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. But anyway, so Guidons, like the other ones, will have Union flag, a saltire or St. George's Cross or whatever national emblem, plus or the arms of the armiger. Now, they are split different ways. In Scotland, Guidons are usually split by 5. It's the livery colors, but it's berry of 5, basically, going down the entire length of the flag. There's also ones that are solid color, but they're older, so it will just be the livery color or the one livery medal that does the whole thing. I personally think the single color looks a lot cleaner, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, those will have that berry or that solid color, but then there's a caveat. Now, some readings say that the heraldic badge or the crest is placed on the guidon with the motto following from there. Then there is some saying that there is a emphasis on having multiple badges with one set of wording. Hi, Sophie. Can you let me record the video? I apologize. Anybody who wants to know, Sophie, come here. This is Sophie. Sophie is helping me record today. Sorry for that tangent. Anyway, so there is a division of 5 there or a solid color, and then it'll either have a badge or a crest with the motto going down the length, or it will have something else. I've seen ones where there's a territorial designation going down. I don't know what that was, but it was something that was granted at one point or another by Lion. I think it looks interesting, but I'd have to dig it up again to show. It's just kind of odd. I thought it looked kind of cool, though. There's also some that are just plain. If you look back in the 15, 16, 1700s, there were guidons granted where it was saltire and hoist, plain color. Usually it was the metal to detract from the saltire. And then it just had the crest or a single badge near the hoist. So it wasn't even centered in this block of color. It was just near the hoist. It was to the hoist end of this color, with it plain down the rest. It can be nice. It can be effective. It's a lot easier to make. It just looks kind of different. So there's that. Then there's the standard. The standard is probably the other most well-known heraldic flag out there, and it's pretty cool. But it's also unmanageable. I mean, the smallest standard that's usually granted by the College of Arms or Lord Lion is about 4 yards long. 4 yards, so that's 12 feet long. Yeah, 12 feet long. At least. And they get bigger and bigger as they go. And they're like 2 to 4 feet tall on the hoist. So this is a very large, long flag. Some are tapered to one end, some are split ends, so there's 2 forks off of it. It really just depends. The College of Arms has been granting standards that are just singular, unsplit ends. There are more that are tailed ends. There are even some evidence historically of tails that are 3 prongs. So it's 3 points instead of 3 rounded ends. It's actually 3 points. I've also seen another example where it was a 3-point, but it was 1 round with 2 smaller rounds behind it. Kind of like the bottom of some gonflannons. So there's that. But yeah, the standard is interesting because this one is divided into 3 compartments normally. 3 or 4, I've seen it both ways. Basically, they do that. They'll have either split by livery color or split 4, so it'll be 2 and 2. So 2 color, 2 metal, going as 4 down the length of the flag. And these will have 2 angled bars or 3 angled bars that are usually white, and they'll have the motto written on them. So the motto goes angular down the flag, and then you also have badges scattered about, or you'll have a crest badge, a plant badge, and a heraldic badge or something like that, or somebody's entitled to two crests and a badge in the middle or something like that. So there's a few different ways to do it, and it just kind of depends on how it's granted at the time. But that's the standard. The standard is never really ever raised. The only times I've ever seen standards raised are when a few chiefs have died and their sons have taken over. They have raised standards at the gathering or after the funeral or something to mark their new inauguration as chief. There's another debate that standards were pitched at camps but never actually taken into battle, and when writings refer to standards they might just be talking about guidons, because guidons are just smaller standards, and that term does not come about until later in history. So there's some conjecture there. So that's the end of part 1 of my flag rants. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to comment or send us an email. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.